Hello everybody and welcome to Mining Modern. I'm Corbin Hosler and this is what they said couldn't be done, but we are doing it. Defenders in Modern. That's right. Arcades came along, made this possible, and you know what? This deck actually posted a 5-0 finish a month or so ago, and I just made a couple small changes after having some fun with it. So let's break down how to make Defenders work in Modern. So it all starts with, as I mentioned, Arcades. Creatures you control with Defender can attack as though they did not have Defender and deal damage equal to their toughness. On top of that, it has Flying, Vigilance. It's a 3/5. And when a creature plays under your control that has Defender, you draw a card. So all kinds of value packed into Arcades here. The other effect like that is High Alert. Each creature you control deals damage equal to its toughness, and you can attack as though they did not have Defender. So that's how we're going to win. On top of that, we get to play all these walls. So Saruli Caretaker, Resolute Watchdog, even Perimeter Captain. All of these cards have their uses as we work our way up the curve. This protects your other creatures like Arcades. This ramps your mana. This gives you some life. Remember, it says whenever any creature you control with Defender blocks, you may gain 2 life. So then we've got the 2-drops, which are all insane. Wall of Omens, Wall of Blossoms. They do the same thing. 0/4s that draw you a card. Overgrown Battlement. This makes a lot of green mana. Same with Wall of Roots. And we're going to put all of that mana into Chord of Calling, which ties the whole deck together. That's why we have the 1 of Perimeter Captain that you can go get, if you need to gain some life against the deck attacking. And attackers, you go get it, and then you block and you gain a bunch of life. This also obviously fetches Arcades. We can fetch a Glen Elendra to protect our team. We've got the Shalai to grow the team, and same thing, we can set up protection for our Arcades. Then we got some Spell Quellers that are obviously very good. A Wall of Denial, which combos with our Worship here to be very difficult to kill us through. And Drift of Phantasms. This really ties it all together because not only is it no 5 flying defender for 3, but you can also transmute it. What that means is you pay 3 blue mana, you can go get a 3-cost card from your hand, and that from your deck, and that 3-cost card is going to be High Alert, or possibly, I guess, Deputy of Detention. So, everybody, that is the deck. And you know what? Hey, it posted a 5-0 on Magic Online. It's got to have something going for it. So, on to the sideboard. The original sideboard of the deck that 5-0'd, which I want to make sure I give credit to here, was by Magic Online user Hindcatchers. So, this deck has a lot working for it in the sideboard as well. It's a lot of creature bullets that you can go get with Chord of Calling. Linvala, Eidolon for the Storm players, Magus, Deputy of Detention for more removal, Knight of Autumn for lots of flexibility, Meddling Mage, Scavenging Ooze, Collector Ouphe. So all of these cards have their uses in different matchups, and you can fetch them all with Chord of Calling. And this deck can make a lot of mana. Overgrown Battlement is 1 green for every creature with Defender you control, and we're going to have plenty. Then, of course, we got some Stony Silence, Rest in Peace, Damping Sphere for coverage of the format here. So, everybody, I'm Corbin Hosler, thrilled to be bringing you Mining Modern here on Cool Stuff. Let's see if we can take down some matches with Bant Walls. Hey everybody, here we go. It is time for Bant Walls in Modern. That's right. I don't know if you should do this in Modern, but I do know that you can. As a matter of fact, someone 5-0'd a league with this deck, so we're going to give it a shot. Why not? And this hand seems great, I guess, as far as Bant Walls hands go. We've got the Wall of Blossoms, the Wall of Roots. I think I'm probably going to play the Wall of Roots here and then double Wall of Blossoms on turn 2. And then we got a Chord of Calling to go get the Arcades later. Now, see what our opponent's up to here. Might be a Death's Shadow Thoughtseize deck of some sort, which may mess up our plans. But the great news about our hand is... Oh, nope, they got a Steam Vents. Okay. Maybe just a Storm deck then. That might be bad for us. Okay, there goes a Street Wraith. All right, so they are down to 15 already. I don't know what I would think something like Death Shadow with the Street Wraiths there, but not fetching a Black Source on turn 1 makes me a little unsure about that. So I think I want to grab the Breeding Pool to start here. Yeah, let's see what we hit. We got another land. Okay, great. That's fine. This one can probably just go get... I mean, I don't know how important our life total is. I'm probably going to stay safe here and just get the forest. That gives us a green source, a blue source, and we still have access to a white source later, should we need it. And we'll run out the Wall of Roots here. Our deck can kill pretty quickly, honestly. I think turn 5, basically, you can Arcades with enough power and play to get them. So we can block most of the things our opponent plays, too. If they... We even have cards in our deck. Yeah, it's got to be a Death Shadow deck, right? We've even got cards in our deck that can block a pretty big Death Shadow, but definitely a Gurmag Angler, that type of thing. We have access to Wall of Denial, which is an 08 Flying Shroud Defender. That'll put up a wall, so to speak. So, all right. There's the Black Source, the Blood Crypt. Grixis something over there. But if they're not going to interact with our hand, honestly, we have a good plan. We get a double Wall of Blossoms. Okay, here comes the Inquisition to take the Chord of Calling. But we get to go double Wall of Blossoms next turn, and then we can still remember Drift of Phantasms, transmute it if we get a Hallowed Fountain with this Windswept Heath, and get our High Alert. That also costs 3 mana. It's the beauty of Transmute. You get to pay the mana to get a card with the same CMC from your deck. So we could be attacking for, what is that, 13? That's lethal, as it turns out, here before too long. There's the white source as it stands. I guess I may as well go ahead and clear out my deck a little here. All right, Wall of Blossoms. Oh, Resolute Watchdog. Okay, very nice. All right, so we'll put the counter on this. Play out the second Wall of Blossoms. Draw another card here. Okay, well, if some is good, more is better, right? Let's see what our opponent has to say about that, though. They're at 13. We got Inquisitioned and then cycled 2 cards, basically, while putting a lot of, I mean, I won't say power, but a lot of stats that will eventually attack into play. So how much mana do I have next turn? I have access to 5 next turn. That's not enough to transmute and play the High Alert. The transmute costs, you can only do it as a sorcery, and it costs 3, so that'll take a bit. And there is the Death Shadow as a 3/3 thus far. Nice thing about these Wall of Blossoms, too, is I can just kind of throw them in the way here. Look at that, though. Now, this looks nice. All right, let's see what we can do here. I think that we might have a way to win this game next turn. All right, so the Resolute Watchdog is basically free because of Convoke. I need to make sure I have the green sources, which with the Wall of Roots I do. I think... Okay, so... Let's say I played... I need X equal 4, which means I have it exactly right now. So I can't play anything that takes me... Oh, I can because of the Wall of Roots. Okay, so I think that I can play Wall of Blossoms and Resolute Watchdog, then have 5 creatures in play, plus the Breeding Pool, plus the mana from the Wall of Roots, which takes me up to 7 mana, which is enough to go get an Arcades on their instep, and then attack for lethal. So, all right, that's what we're going to do. Play the Wall of Blossoms here. And you know what? Another Wall of Roots is basically the same as a Resolute Watchdog, except it has more toughness. So I'm in. So that would still be 7. Yeah, sure. All right, we just have to not die. That's all. To our opponent's 3/3 Death Shadow. And then I mean, also this, our opponent can't have a Fatal Push with Revolt anyways for the Arcades. Which, to be fair, they don't seem to have an easy way to trigger Revolt right now, so they'd have to have another piece of removal, which is certainly possible, but honestly, I think we might be able to pull this off. It'd be nice if our opponent just, tapped out for something. All right, you know what? You are allowed to opt. This is going exactly according to plan. Opponent playing what is very possibly one of the best decks in the format, Grixis Shadow, and here we are trying to Chord of Calling them to death with Arcades. Now, we might get blown out here by... I guess there's not a ton I could do about it. As it stands, the one thing I do have to be kind of wary of here is a Stubborn Denial. But even if they do that, I think we'll be okay with a Drift of Phantasms in hand. And there, they tap the blue source. It's not going to matter anyways. Okay, so here we go. They're going to try to dismember the Wall of Roots. And in response, I'm going to Chord here. All right, X is currently 4. Let's do it. Okay, take a look through our beautiful deck here, I gotta say. And here comes the Arcades the Strategist. So, unless our opponent has another Dismember in hand, they're just dead. That's what this comes down to. If they have a Dismember, they're not. If they don't, they're very dead. We get to attack for a lot next turn. This was sweet. I don't care if we win the match. I don't care if we go 0-3. All of that's whatever. But if we were to take down this match here with this Arcades, that would be pretty fun. Or this game, rather. And our opponent is in the tank. So, you know, if they had the Dismember, they'd fire it off for sure. Which tells me that they don't. And they're going to come in with the Death Shadow. I don't have anything to worry about here. At least I don't think so anyways. They're not going to do 15 to us with it. And now we find out whether or not they have the Dismember. If they do, we're not even dead. You know, we have plenty to follow up with after that. So, all right, let's go ahead and play this Resolute Watchdog here. Not that this, I guess, really matters. We either have lethal or we don't, right? Okay, I think we're going to be good to go. I think that's the answer. We do get a draw card. All right, on to combat. Swinging in with the defenders. I think we might have done it. Oh, our opponent said GG in chat. Oh my gosh, the defenders get there. We did it. Arcades Walls taking down at least a game from Crix's Shadow anyways. That was sweet. Okay, what do we want here? What do we want? I'm not sure what the best board plan here is. I think I like the Deputy of Detentions. Probably the Magus of the Moon. That can mess them up pretty badly. I don't know what they have to deal with Worship, if anything. I'm going to cut a I do like the Watchdogs. We don't need the Perimeter Captain. The Watchdogs are good to protect our Arcades. I think I like most of what we have going on here, honestly. What to cut? What to cut? And we'll see if we can trim down here. I mean, I like everything that makes me mana. I like everything that messes with my opponent. Basically, we can trim down. We may have to play this game a little differently. We may not get to sort of free roll the surprise Arcades for the win. We may have to, you know, try to set up some protection for it first. But, you know what? That's something we can do. I don't know about this hand, though. Triple Drift of Phantasm. One land. I will ship. And this hand I will keep. Probably just throw back one of these lands. I don't really want to deal myself a bunch of damage this game. So I'm going to put the Waterlogged Grove back because I think we're going to need to fetch out a Temple Garden here to have access to all of our colors. Give this one a shot. I mean, Overgrown Battlement, Wall of Omens is great. Overgrown Battlement can make a lot of mana, and it makes, you know, if we have just a couple defenders out, it does so much work in powering up your Chord of Callings later on. This is one of the few decks, though. I mean, I guess we can block a Street Wraith if they were to play one. But one of the few decks where, despite all this toughness, most of their creatures can still attack through it. All right, so I assume my opponent's going to take Deputy of Detention here, but they might just take the Wall of Omens, honestly. If they have removal, they don't necessarily need to be worried about the Deputy, and they can just take our ability to filter through the deck here with the Wall of Omens. Probably makes the most sense from their perspective. Not sure how we want this game to go from their perspective. You know, if they just power out a fast Death Shadow and then kill our Deputy Detention, you know, after the Mulligan and now this Inquisition here, they do actually take the Deputy. I think I like that because, you know, my opponent can, they definitely have removal in their deck, right? They have fetches, fatal pushes, dismembers. We know they have all that. I want to just draw cards here. I just want to set up, and that's not a bad one later. That can block a lot of things. I just kind of want to set up and put enough things out there that we can then draw a Chord of Calling and have it be effective. And like I said, we want to set up protection in the form of Shalai or Resolute Watchdog, etc. for our Arcades. So I kind of like the idea of the game going slow. You know, that's a lot better for us than them aggroing out. despite playing a bunch of walls that you'd think would be good against an aggro start. Not quite necessarily so in this particular matchup. All right, let's... I guess I should actually start with the Overgrown Battlement here, though. This makes the most sense. If our opponent didn't take the Wall of Omens with the Inquisition, and they didn't Thoughtseize or Inquisition us on turn 2, we may lose our Overgrown Battlement here to a Dismember or Fatal Push, in which case we're not really any worse off, but the upside is we'd untap and have 4 mana for, the Wall of Omens plus whatever we draw. And it's just going to get Fatal Pushed. All right, that's fine. Yeah, our opponent having a removal heavy hand, that's what we can fight through with no problem, because most of our walls are interchangeable. I guess I would have rather had the Wall of Omens Fatal Push than the Overgrown Battlement, but ultimately it's unlikely to be a giant difference maker in the matchup. And my opponent doing nothing there is probably good for us too. All right, I don't see any reason. I think our green mana is more constricted than our white mana, so I'll go with the Wall of Blossoms here. I don't see any reason to shock ourselves to play the Wall of Denial. I just want to continue sculpting my hand here. Just try to draw some cards, get some value out there. In this case, the value is the defenders. And if we get to save 2 life along the way, great. Which we do. All right, there's the Chord, though. Now, I will have to decide how I want to play this one, because... Chord, just, running out Chord for Arcades at the earliest possible moment is not necessarily what we want to do. We may be better off chording, gonna surgical our Overgrown Battlement, sure. Chording for something like Shalai, and our opponent gets to see our whole deck now. But let's say chording for something like Shalai or Elendra Archmage would be a good one to set up the protection. That actually might be the better play with the first Chord of Calling, especially given that we do have the Drift of Phantasms in hand that can transmute for the high alert at some point later on in the game. All right, really don't mind my opponent doing that. No more Overgrown Battlements for us, I suppose. But again, they even paid mana for that, which is interesting because they only have the ability right now to put themselves... Well, okay, I was going to say put themselves down to 13, but now they can go to 11 and actually play out a Death Shadow. It's interesting, though. They're playing Death Shadow and yet preserving their life total, huh? They're scared of the walls, everybody. We did it. Okay, well, rip. There goes our Chord. That's our opponent's down to 2 cards in hand. I mean, if they don't play a threat, and honestly, if that threat isn't Death Shadow, we're going to be just fine. Even a Gurmag Angler here, not going to do much against the Wall of Denial. And I don't know that our opponent has any ways if we were to set up a Wall of Denial worship block. I'm not sure that they can beat that. It's possible. I mean, they're playing blue. They could easily have, some kind of bounce spell even or something like that. But, as far as straight up enchantment removal, they're not going to have it. They could obviously counter it as well, but it might just be a hard lock. All right, let's see what they're up to over there now with the 2 mana they have. Is this where the Gurmag Angler comes down? I think it might be. I think that's Gurmag Angler keeping up Stubborn Denial here. Nope. Okay, they're gonna go ahead and tap that. And there is the Gurmag Angler. Okay, well I don't really care about this. At least I don't think I do, anyways. The Flooded Strand. Yeah, I'm just gonna go with the Wall of Denial here. If they want to burn, if their last card is Temur Battle Rage and they want to burn Temur Battle Rage to double strike their way through my Wall of Denial, more power to them. But other than that, I'm just gonna block this thing forever. All right, there we go. All right, let's go get the Hallowed Fountain here. I could just play Elendra Archmage. I won't lie, that's what I'm going to do. It doesn't get Stubborn Denialed if that's their last card, and if it's a removal spell, they didn't crack their Polluted Delta, so very believable that they'd be holding on to something like Fatal Push. But even if they are, the beauty of Elendra Archmage, if you all don't know this card, believe it was in Eventide. Everything's in Shadowmoor or Eventide originally. It's got Persist. So when it dies, if it didn't have a -1 counter, it comes back with a -1 counter. And this is protection for everything we want to do here. And now I'm going to start doing my thing. We're going to Wall of Roots and then Wall of Omens. All right, let's see if we hit... Oh, we hit the Magus of the Moon. Okay, so the Magus of the Moon we can only play with the Saruli Caretakers or Chord for it. So it's actually not ideal to draw it. I guess we get attack with our Elendra Archmage. I guess I'm not sure if I should be attacking or not, given that it helps our opponent's Death Shadow plan, but I don't know. I guess it's a 7-turn clock. If we have Saruli Caretaker, we can play Magus of the Moon. Otherwise, drawing it's a little painful here, but not the end of the world. And our opponent's going to Thoughtseize, so the question is whether or not they care about the Magus, and I'm actually thrilled that they Thoughtseize that away. One, because we can't even play it, but two, they could fetch out a swamp with this Polluted Delta and then have Island Swamp Mountain. It wouldn't have even done anything besides hose us. So, you know, there are situations where it's not a big deal for us to go get this, which is why we boarded it in, and because it can really mess them up. But in this case, this worked out just fine. So now I need to decide whether or not I want to Drift of Phantasms, transmuting, opening ourselves up to losing to the high market, or getting the high market and losing to a discard spell. I really don't want to do that. So, and especially since I have 5 mana right now, I'm just 1 mana away from just doing that and playing it in the same turn. I'm going to go ahead and do this. And there is that mana. Now, ideally, I would draw another blue source here so that I can, excuse me, protect all of this with the Elendra. I mean, my opponent knows that our last card is Drift of Phantasms, and it depends whether or not they care about it. If they, you know, want to Thoughtseize themselves to get it, you know, or Inquisition. I mean, in a sense, it's open to one of those spells either way, but it's also possible they just wanted to do that. All right, here we go, though. That was the perfect draw. Okay, sometimes you're just very good at the game. What can I say? All right, there's the blue, and there's the green. Let's transmute this thing. All right, let's get the high alert. Let's play. I need to get blue over here. Let's play the high alert. And we have the Waterlogged Grove and the Elendra up to protect it. That might be game, everybody. Let's move to combat. Oh my gosh, we did it! Bant Walls destroying Grixis Shadow, one of the best decks in the format. Look at that, everybody. Look, this is what Mining Modern and Punting Pioneer and all the videos I make, this is what it's about. Our opponent is playing in a very expensive, very tier 1 deck that all the pros play, takes down Grand Prix, and here we are with Bant Walls 2-0ing them on Mining Modern, everybody. Thanks for watching. That was perfect. I don't care what happens from here on out, but you know what? Let's try to take some more wins anyways. Let's play some more with Bant Walls. Hey everybody, it is going to be hard to top that first match, but you know what? We are going to do our best. I unfortunately have to mulligan this hand. Our deck only runs like 19 lands. It's very low on lands, but it's because of stuff like Saruli Caretaker and the walls. I will keep this one. I'll ship the Saruli Caretaker because we already have one, I guess. We have lots of Wall of Roots as well. There's lots of ways to make mana with the deck, so it's kind of basically fine to do it this way, to play so few lands. And we, you know what, with the 8 2-drop cantrip cards, the Wall of Blossoms and the Wall of Omens, we have a lot of ways to find what we want here. As it stands, we're set up for a turn 3 Shalai, which wouldn't be too bad. Giver of Runes, okay. Our opponent's probably on Mardu Shadow, all the Death Shadow decks over here. But you know what, this actually works out pretty nicely. We can play the Wall of Blossoms, draw a card. Ooh, look at that. Tap this, and we can even play out this Resolute Watchdog here. Ramping just like it's Ravnica Allegiance Limited. Actually, I played a lot of Ravnica Allegiance Limited. I would not play this card very often. It was fine, but it was never exciting. All right, here, oh my gosh. Okay. I was maybe wrong about the the Mardu Shadow. Whenever a non-token creature enters a battlefield under your control, you can pay white, and if you do get a spirit, sacrifice a spirit. Target non-spirit gains indestructible until end of turn. So, all right, our opponent also on the bruise over there. I like it. I like it. What can I say? Excuse me. All right, well, the thing is, can our opponent deal with worship? That's the question they have to answer. This one has power. I guess it's better to keep it, but I just want to play out my Shalai here and start attacking. Also, for what it's worth, we have 4 mana right now. You know, at some point, you just start activating the ability on this thing. Our opponent's shocking themselves with a Sacred Foundry here. Well, I'm very curious where the Spirit Bonds is going. Ranger of Captain Vios. All right, we will see. They're not going to get a spirit out of this one. They don't have the mana to pay. It is also good. They have this Giver of Runes. We have creatures of a bunch of different colors to block. Excuse me. What did they search up? They searched up Norin the Wary. Okay. Now I'm seeing a combo here. Norin the Wary, Spirit Bonds. Wow, what a match, I guess. Okay. Man, do I just... That Norin's gonna get silly pretty quickly, to be honest. I can drift for the high alert, play the high alert next turn. I think that might be the play, and just try to aggro our opponent. It's gonna be hard to aggro our opponent, but we can try. Is the worship, I mean, I don't think our opponent with their red-white, probably Soul Sisters-esque deck here is going to be, you know, Thoughtseizing us or anything. So we can play out this worship basically at any time, I think. I'd probably want the Breeding Pool here. I guess I don't need to shock it in. All right, we'll get blue like this. Transmute this thing for a high alert. You know, the thing is, our opponent is just going to pop off basically with Spirit Bonds and Norin, but we can put a lot of pressure on them with the high alert next turn with that. But the thing is, I think our opponent just probably doesn't have any way to beat worship, regardless of whether we have the Shroud creature down or not. They're not going to have enough removal to churn their way through so many defenders that we have here. So I'm reasonably confident that this is going to be a win. I don't know if they'll actually scoop to it, but you know, I think it's going to be very good. For what it's worth, they get 1 free spirit here. The next spirit costs some life, and with the Sunbaked Canyon. So, and they're just going to pay that anyways for another 2-drop here. All right, well, the Genesis Chamber is the combo with the Norin. Whenever non-token creature enters the battlefield, if it's untapped, they get a 1/1. And they're going to have a lot of 1/1s. Fortunately, we are in the... Well, I say that. The Shalai is in the air, at least. Let's get our own 1/1s. Why not? All right. This board is going to get very full very quickly. I think I want to attack with everything, though. I'm coming in for a lot here. This is... They can't even do anything here. They have to pay to do this, so that's what I'm saying. This attack actually is pretty decent here. This board's going to get cluttered very quickly, but at least for this turn, I think we can get away with this. And then hopefully our Shalai can go the distance. Keep in mind, it's dealing 4 a turn here instead of 3, so they have to make some chump blocks. The high alert, making it deal damage equal to its toughness. All creatures, not just creatures with Defender. And next turn we'll Slam a Worship, and that'll be game. I hope my opponent scoops to it, because it probably is game, but we'll see. Yeah, they're going to have a lot of spirits off of this thing. given enough time. All right, we get a trade with the Ranger Captain here. I'm fine with this. Oh, they're gonna sure. We get to get in for 3 damage, basically. Lose our Resolute Watchdog. Resolute Watchdog probably not going to matter too much. If our opponent has removal, it's likely in the form of Path to Exile, which Resolute Watchdog giving something indestructible isn't really going to do much about. Okay, so we got our opponent down to 9. Yeah, this is why I put Worship in the deck, by the way. They, not all, okay. Deals 1 damage to each opponent, huh? That's going to be a lot. That's going to be a lot. Our opponent's deck is cool. Don't have a lot of removal for it either. The question is whether or not they have removal for Worship. I don't know that we're going to be able to kill them, basically, at this point. But I'm really not sure if they can kill us. And I guess we'll get in with this while we can. We're not going to be able to make more mirrors than our opponent, which is unfortunate, because with our Shalai, we could actually pump them all up quite a bit. And yeah, the Giver of Runes, we can't even get in there. So it's not, it doesn't even force a chump block. So I'd say we're at the full stalemate here. Okay, well, I don't know how to expect this game to go from here. Our opponent's down to 8. I don't believe I have any ways to deal damage to them directly. But I'm also not sure they have any ways to beat Worship. Alright, Champion of the Parish joining the party. Settle in for this one, I think. I mean, I think it's a question of will we win 46 turns from now when our opponent can't beat Worship, or will and they deck, or will they find an answer and we scoop? This is a situation where I just ask my opponent, can you beat Worship? Because there's no need for us to sit here for this long, right? If you can beat Worship, I'm happy to scoop because I can't beat what you're doing. But if you can't, you know, let's not waste time, right? All right. There's an Arcades. May as well play it. Why not? I don't think we have any way to get trample or anything like that. So I just don't think this game's going anywhere. I'm hoping once our opponent sees that they have this impact trimmers that can't beat Worship, then they'll scoop. But, you know, honestly, look, I'm playing on Magic Online. I'm not a person I'm not trying to protect my tickets here. I'm trying to make entertaining content for you. So if this goes on for a little bit, I'm happy to just scoop, take the L, move on to the next game. There's no reason to waste an hour here for both of us, right? You get to see my opponent sweep through, though. They get to do their thing. Oriog Champion, okay. I agree. I'm never killing you. But I am 1 card. You know what? Maybe I wasn't supposed to play the Arcades. I'm 1 card ahead of my opponent on the decking race. Look at all the triggers. Imagine trying to play this deck in paper. 45 triggers every turn. They are doing it, though, that's for sure. Okay. Is this you may draw a card? You actually have to draw a card? I guess I'm just not going to play anything then. My opponent would literally deck 1 turn before me. I don't think they're going to... Something tells me they're not going to scoop. Whether or not they can beat Worship is another question entirely, but it looks like they're committed to attacking for 42 turns here and breaking Magic Online. Honestly, they would time out first, right? I think they would time out before they actually got anywhere here. That is a life. I could lose to that. That's not damage. That's pain life. I'm trying to think of what they could have. Sure, they got a Thalia. I don't think that they have anything in their main deck that would beat Worship. I mean, maybe they think they're going to kill all my creatures, but that seems rather unlikely, right? So I can grow my team now for what it's worth. It's not worth anything because we don't have any way to give our creatures trample. Yeah, I don't think we're going anywhere here. What could they have? I mean, they have to realize that they're getting decked before me. Do they think they're going to kill all of my creatures? Because they'd kill Shalai and then they'd kill Arcades, right? I just wouldn't play anymore. Unsure. They're still putting their triggered abilities on the stack here. Who knows? This is one of those games that, imagine this happening at a Grand Prix. Imagine being me doing coverage, and this is the last round you're waiting on at a Grand Prix. Worship Lock versus Impact Trimmers, Genesis Chamber Norin Lock. Pretty solid, honestly. Alright, our opponent is, I guess, thinking about this, running down their own clock. This, however, is not a Grand Prix. This is Magic Online, where this would not end as a 0-0 draw or whatever. This would end on someone getting decked. So, okay. It would appear that our opponent decided that they cannot beat Worship, and we won the staring match on to Game 2. Unfortunately for us, now they can beat Worship. They can certainly beat Worship here in Game 2, so I'm not sure what our plan is exactly. I guess this is fine. I definitely want these and these. That was nice. My opponent decided that they were not going to win, so they scooped. That was great. That's exactly how it should go, as a matter of fact. Alright, I don't even know what to cut here. All of this seems perfectly reasonable for whatever the heck match we're playing. I just want to hand a permission here, which is kind of awkward to say. It's not like we have a ton of permission in the deck, but with the Meddling Mages and the Spell Quellers and the Deputies, we can at least fight on that axis anyways. Let's cut the Watchdogs. Let's cut a Drift of Phantasm, I guess. We have plenty of ways to end the game here. It's more about preventing what our opponent is doing, so I don't need another transmute card. Although, for what it's worth, you can transmute that into removal spells, so to speak. So this hand is very tempting with the Wall of Blossom. I mean, this hand would be great if it had one more land. I'm going to mulligan it. We'll keep this one. Ship the Flooded Strand, I suppose. Well, this is great. I'll ship... Get rid of the Heath instead, I guess. Probably doesn't matter all that much. This actual aggro start out of my opponent here with the Champion of the Parish. Which, by the way, I believe Norin's a human, so this, that works the way they want it to. All right, we'll go with this. And then next turn we'll play our Wall of Omens and hopefully get some blocks in on this Champion of the Parish before it gets out of control. Dahlia's Lieutenant. Wow, okay. They they showed us the combo in game 1 or whatever. What if they just sideboarded into, red-white humans here? Attacking for 3 is no joke. On turn 2. That's Wild Nicatl level stats, as a matter of fact. Alright, this does some blocking, though. And Overgrown Battlement. I wish I could play it next. I wish I had it to play this turn. Might have changed how I played a little bit here, but hopefully I'll get a block the Champion of the Parish. I will not. That's a Spirit. Well, I will, actually. It's a Spirit Bonds. Okay. We'll take the 1. And now I have a decision to make. I think that I just have to keep up the Spell Queller here. Our opponent has one of their pieces in play with the Spirit Bonds, although I guess it's somewhat similar to the Chamber, but whatever this is, I'll likely be countering. For sure countering that. I don't really want to deal myself extra damage here, so I'm just going to get the Plains. and go like this to Spell Queller, the Ranger Captain. That goes and gets the Norn, so we do not want them to have that. It also prevents the trigger, and now they can't attack, so that works out as well. And there's the Worship. So, okay, I think I'm going to actually go with the Arcades here. Looks like this might be a game we can win in the air. At least thus far, anyways. Next turn, I can go High Alert plus Overgrown Battlement if I need to. Purphoros. All right. The good news is Purphoros is very good. For those who haven't lost to it in Commander before, it's indestructible as long as your devotion to red. It's less than 5. It's not a creature. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, it deals 2 damage each opponent. And you can pay 3 to pump your creatures. So that's what it's got going for it. And there's a Meddling Mage. So I like what we're doing here. I'm going to go with Meddling Mage naming Norn. And then we're going to fetch out... Unfortunately, I do have to shock myself here. But I think that's going to be fine because our opponent's going to scoop to it. We named the Norn with the Meddling Mage, and then we play the High Alert, and we attack our opponent for 8 in the air. And I would have gone in with the 4 on the ground, most likely. I may not have. No, I probably would have. So we would have swung at our opponent for 12 that turn, which means if they're either basically trading both their creatures with the wall or chump blocking it, or taking 12, in which case they're facing down lethal just to the Arcades next turn. And yeah, they can mess around with Spirit Bonds, but you know, we get a follow-up after that with Overgrown Battlement, draws this card, Worship, etc. So there you go, everybody. Our opponent had a sweet brew, but I guess the wall deck was the aggro deck, and it worked out perfectly. Let's see if we can pull off the 3-0 now with Bant Defenders. All right, it is time for more Bant Walls action here on Mighty Modern, and you know what? This hand looks pretty decent. I think it's worth the shocks to go ahead and play out the Watchdog here. Basically against anything but burn, I'd say. Even against burn, this play is probably fine. Because we're going to have to shock ourselves again for the Overgrown Battlement, but then on turn 3, we will have a lot of mana to play around with. And our opponent's just going to Serum Visions anyway, so, you know, very likely not to be punished for dealing ourselves 4 points of damage here, at least based off of that. There's a Shalai. All right, play the Battlement and pass the turn. So if we get to untap here, we have the blue and the white from our lands. We have the green from the Battlement. That's 4 mana. We can play out an Arcades here. Well, now we can definitely play out Arcades. I guess this doesn't change. You know what? I'm gonna play differently. I'm gonna play Shalai. I'm gonna play Shalai with the Resolute Watchdog up, because if our opponent's gonna say Mana Leak or whatever this here, I really don't want to show them the Arcades, given that it's our best card in our hand, with the Drift of Phantasms follow-up. And it definitely looks like our opponent's going to be responding to Shalai here. As a matter of fact, it got Mana Leaked. It's been a minute since I played against Mana Leak in Modern. The combination of Teferi and just threats being so cheap kind of pushed Mana Leak out of the format a little bit. It used to just be a staple. I used to play a bunch of Cavernous Souls in every deck I could just to play around Mana Leak, or I'd jam in one of my decks, I would jam Summoning Trap in the sideboard just to get people when they Mana Leaked me. But these days, Mana Leak is not a thing you have to worry about too much. That said, I am glad that I ran the Shalai out there into that Mana Leak rather than the Arcades. And there's a Goyf. Okay, sure. All right. So, yeah, I think I like this. Happy to just run the same line, I think, even. Play the Arcades here. And now we get a pass with the Resolute Watchdog up. We're going to have to take a hit from the Goyf. Well, I guess unless I wanted to block with Arcades, but I'm not going to do that. Also, you have to keep in mind, this is the thing with our deck. There are, in Game 1, exactly 5 ways to win. Worship is one of them. Okay, so Worship blocking people out is one of those ways to win. The other 4 are the 2 Arcade. The other 4. Yeah, there's 4. There's 2 Arcades. There's a High Alert, and there's a Elendra Archmage. Those are actually the only ways we have to kill anybody in game one. We can't, otherwise we just have a bunch of defenders that can't attack. That's one of the reasons why I actually put the worship package into the main deck. And it rewarded us in the last round, obviously, but it allows you to have another way to win when your opponent just happens to have 3 Assassin's trophies or whatever. And that's why you have Resolute Watchdogs and Shalais and stuff in the deck, is to set up the protection for the Arcades. But, hey, there's only so much you can do, and that's a pretty, unfortunate way to lose a game if your opponent realizes they only need to care about, 3 cards or whatever. In this case, though, our opponent went ahead and burned their Lightning Bolt on the Resolute Watchdog. And there's the High Alert. So I'm actually just going to, because we just drew that, I'm just going to play the Drift of Phantasms here. I would ideally like to draw, I just want to draw cards off of it at this point. It's also, at least for right now, a pretty convenient blocker on the Tarmogoyf. Alright. Well, we found our lands. I could play the High Alert here. Go for the attack first to see if we bait anything out. The question is, my opponent let that Drift of Phantasms resolve. The thing is, if I play the High Alert out, yes, I could have got extra damage in, but I kind of think I want to save it. If I have both of those out, my opponent will care much more, or much less about Arcades, because I have a backup Arcades, right? If I don't play it, they're playing, so they're just playing, what is that? Temur Delver over there? Okay. I was going to say, if I don't play the High Alert, then my opponent may go for something on the Arcades, which we can then, play differently. Not really sure. I guess we're just slamming with the team now. So Arcades is a little different than High Alert in that High Alert makes all your creatures deal damage equal to their toughness. Arcades only makes the one. Only makes your creatures with defender. So there we go. Like I said, that our opponent Magmatic Sinkhold there, and that opens the window for us to run out this High Alert and get aggro with it. They had to shrink their own Goyf to do it. We're playing around Spell Pierce. Not playing around Force of Negation, I guess. Force of Negation, exiling Force of Negation. Okay. Oops. In that case, I guess I should have played the Elendra Archmage to protect against that. Didn't think about playing around Force of Negation, but you know what? Worship's pretty good too. Oh, they do have a Spell Pierce. Wow. Good for them. Okay, well, interesting. I'd say that's a little bit of punts in the sense that, we could have just played Elendra, not really had to worry about that stuff. But hey, I mean, I don't think that I'm supposed to play around both Force of Negation and Spell Pierce there. By drawing out the Force, we open up the Worship line, which beats this Hex Shrinker line, I'll note. Yeah, now this game got a little more interesting. Here's the Arcades. That's a nice draw. So what can we do here? I can slam for 9 if I want. Then my opponent, with their 1 card in hand, is cracking back for lethal. They level this up again. It becomes a 4. That's 8. That's 9. I'm going to have to block with Arcades, but whatever. I'll block with Arcades. This is the last turn we need to get in with these creatures on the ground, and getting in for 9 makes our Arcades lethal next turn if our opponent doesn't flip their Delvers. So this is a very interesting game here. And also, we can't really wait out the Hex Shrinker with our Worship now countered. So we just have to do this and hope that our opponent doesn't blind flip the Delver here, because that gives them a blocker, which is kind of the scariest thing. All right, they didn't. So leveling this up doesn't beat us. The only way they win is if they have a removal, bounce spell, etc. for Arcades here. So I'm going to block the... My opponent has instant... Okay, so in creatures in graveyards we have lands, creatures, enchantments, instants. There are no sorceries in graveyard. So if my opponent had an instant speed way to put a sorcery in the graveyard, I'm just trying to think this through here. I'm trying to think what we lose to. If my opponent had an instant speed way to put a sorcery in the graveyard, we would just die if we blocked the Delver, because then we'd take 5. But, I mean, what does that mean? Like, Thrill of Possibility or discarding a sorcery or something? I'm not sure what they could have here. The other line is, if I'm trying to think, then if I block the Tarmogoyf to play around that, what happens? You know, if Lightning Bolt kills Arcades anyways, which then I guess we're not dead. We could top deck we can't even top deck another Arcades. We're looking at all of our ways to win right here, basically. We've been through the High Alert, the 2 Arcades, the Glen, and the Worship. So this Arcades is actually all that we have left here. So I'm supposed to prioritize keeping it at all costs. With that said, if our opponent has Lightning Bolt and we block the Tarmogoyf, they could kill our Arcades, but they have Lightning Bolt and we block the Delver, they could kill us. So it kind of doesn't make any difference, right? This has to get to level 8 to have protection from everything and have more power. So that doesn't bother me. I guess we'd lose to, like, Gut Shot in this scenario. So the question is, if we blocked the Tarmogoyf, would they have a way of putting a sorcery into a graveyard that also doesn't kill us? Which is basically like Thrill of Possibility or Cathartic. They can't even Cathartic Read. There's just so few ways we lose to that. I think this plays around slightly more. I'm honestly not sure, and I'm not going to stress myself too much about thinking about it, because that's not why we play these matches. I'm not going to spend 10 minutes here thinking about it, but I am just going to give this one more thought. This leaves us... the thing is, we're still dead to Lightning Bolt in this line. This is just creature or planeswalker. It's also possible... No, well, 1, 2. This costs 6. It's possible they want a creature in their graveyard by blocking this, so they could then kill our Arcades with, say, a Magmatic Sinkhole. But if that was the case, they could have just done that without leveling it up. I just can't reasonably think of something we lose to. I'm sure they're going to play it afterwards and make me look silly, but I'm going to go ahead and make this block. Okay, looks like we might have a... looks like we decided correctly. It may not have mattered. The most likely scenario, I think, is that it didn't matter at all and our opponent was dead no matter what. But I don't know. Either way, we took it down. That was sweet. What now? I think I want Deputy Detentions. Probably Scavenging Ooze for sure. Collector Ouphe, no. Eidolon of Rhetoric, no. So it's Tarmogoyf, Delvers, and Friends, huh? They do have Force and Negations, etc. So what do we cut here? Don't need the Perimeter Captain. I honestly kind of liked everything else. I think I like having the Worship, just because, like I said, we need to maximize our ways to actually interact with them. Or, you know, we just need to maximize our win conditions, so to speak. We'll cut down here. And I guess cut down. Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me. I guess we'll also cut down on the Drift of Phantasms. We boarded in some more 3s. Give this a shot. Hard to say. I'm not sure exactly what we need to be concerned about here. But I'm into this hand. This hand's got a lot of stuff working for it here. It basically doesn't do anything, so to speak, for a while, but our opponent mulliganed, and this hand sets up very well. It's got a lot of mana, it's got some protection, it's got some interaction with the Deputy, it's got the Drift for the Transmute. We might just play Defenders for 3 turns and then Transmute. Now, this is actually the scariest card our opponent could have, to be quite honest. I'm just going to fetch out the basic forest here, I think. Or the basic... Or I'm going to misclick because it's too small and not zoom out, get the basic planes. It doesn't make too much of a difference here. I can go Wall of Roots or Saruli Caretaker next turn. Doesn't change much. In fact, I mean, it discourages the attack here. Wow, our opponent just sinking the mana into it. They recognize also that this is their ticket to victory, so that's fine. This time I actually do want to make sure to fetch out the forest. Alright, get the forest. Play the Wall of Roots. And play the Saruli Caretaker. Okay, so next turn I'm likely just going to be priced into playing the Deputy of Detention to get that thing off the battlefield before it has protection from everything. And even if my opponent then bolts the Deputy, we at least reset the counters on the Hex Shrinker. Hex Shrinker is a real problem. Unfortunately for us, if our opponent's keeping up removal here, or I'm sorry, a counterspell here, a mana leak, we're going to be in trouble no matter what. They can only level up as a sorcery, and at 3, they can't get to 8. So I actually am safe for a turn here. Play a Wall of Omens. Yeah, there's a Flooded Strand. Let's go fetch out our island. Also conceivable my opponent could have Blood Moon, etc. I mean, probably not, but you never know. Alright, we'll add white. We'll tap this thing down, I guess, and we will play out another Wall of Omens. Alright, so our hand had all these cards that might develop into something. As of yet, they haven't developed much, but the good news for us is we played around, you know, a counter magic spell very successfully by either our opponent didn't have it or we just played nothing they cared about, but they can't level all the way up to 8 this turn, so we will at least now get to play our Deputy of Detention with Mana Leak, with the ability to pay for Mana Leak, and the ability to recast through a remand. You know, if it's a more a harder counter spell, so to speak, than that, we're probably just going to get run out of town by this Hex Shrinker, but we are doing our best here. I'll take one more hit. Alright, and they're going to put some mana into leveling it. Still keeping up that remand, mana leak, etc. here. So I think we actually, you know, made a good decision by playing around that as best we could. Alright, I want to make sure I have the right mana to do this. I could add, so I can play it like this, and I just need to play this out so we actually have the mana to pay for the mana leak. But now I have blue, green, white here to replay it. The problem for us is this isn't necessary. I mean, resolving this is no guarantee that we won't still die to Hex Shrinker, but it'll at least force them to reset the counters on it, you know, wasting 4 of their mana. And let's see what the play is. It is a mana leak. Okay, I have 3 mana in my pool. I would like to pay for the mana leak. Okay. Oh, that's even better. I mean, we actually got the mana leak out of our opponent's hand on top of everything else. So, and you know, now we get to pass the turn back, and we actually have mana open from the Wall of Roots. So, oh, they just have another. Okay. I was going to say, we have mana open from the Wall of Roots to use a Resolute Watchdog to protect this Deputy. But now we can shift into plan B. Ooh. I see. Transmute time. And I don't know how everyone watching feels about this play, but I'm actually not going to play the High Alert out here. The fact that my opponent was willing to burn that mana leak just for tempo kind of suggests that they have another one or some other form of counter magic, and running our High Alert out into that would be a pretty poor decision. So let's wait until next turn. We'll actually add more attacking ability to the board. I can't say power. We'll add more attacking ability to the board with the Overgrown Battlement. And now we can just play the High Alert and slam for a bunch of damage. And our opponent going in on this Hex Shrinker here, not that concerning, to be quite honest. Yeah, but I guess we take one more hit. Not going to die to it. Not dead to a lightning bolt. And now it's time for a high alert. And now it's time to attack with the team. I don't really know if this is enough, but we're dead to them leveling up the Hex Shrinker next turn, so we may as well give it a shot. All right, they do have the Bolt. Okay, let's think this through. If they Bolt this and we let it resolve, they both get to take 3 damage away from us and then take more away from us, so it's definitely worth using the Resolute Watchdog to protect the Deputy of Detention. Now they can only make 1 block. They block 4, and I think that they still die. They block 4, and then they take 7, 11, 14, 16. That's lethal, everybody. That's the 3-0 with Bant Defenders in Modern, taking it down. I said at the beginning, they said it can't be done. That's the whole point of Defenders, that you can't win with Defenders. They can't attack. They have no power. But you know what? We're 3-0 anyways, everybody. I'm Corbin Hosler. This is Mining Modern. Huge shout out and thank you to Cool Stuff for letting me make some content for the channel. Hope that there's a lot more in the future. Please like, subscribe, share this video, post it across social media. I would love for people to see a 3-0 with Bant Defenders, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.